Welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to summarize Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Wuthering Heights is a gripping tale of love, revenge, and obsession set in the wild and windswept moors of Yorkshire. The novel follows the turbulent and tragic relationships between the passionate Heathcliff, the spirited Catherine Earnshaw, and the wealthy Edgar Linton. Brimming with intense emotions, dark secrets, and haunting atmospheres, Wuthering Heights explores the destructive power of unrequited love and the lasting impact of past decisions on future generations. Chapter 1. The narrator, Mr. Lockwood, arrives at Thrushcross Grange, a house owned by Mr. Heathcliff, known as the dark-skinned gypsy in the neighborhood. He is greeted by the dogs and is later introduced to the housekeeper, Ellen Dean. Lockwood is intrigued by Heathcliff's mysterious personality and decides to learn more about him. Chapter 2. Ellen Dean, also known as Nelly, begins to narrate the story of Wuthering Heights to Lockwood. She describes her childhood at the farmhouse and her close relationship with the Earnshaw family. She introduces Heathcliff, an orphan boy adopted by Mr. Earnshaw, and his intense bond with Catherine, Mr. Earnshaw's daughter. Chapter 3. Nelly recounts the growing friendship between Catherine and Heathcliff, which evolves into a passionate and intense love as they spend their days roaming the moors. However, Catherine's brother, Hindley, dislikes Heathcliff and treats him poorly after their father's death. Despite this, Catherine and Heathcliff's connection remains unbreakable. Chapter 4. Mr. Earnshaw dies, and Hindley becomes the master of Wuthering Heights. He mistreats Heathcliff, degrading him to the status of a servant. Catherine, torn between her love for Heathcliff and her desire for social advancement, meets Edgar Linton, a wealthy neighbor at Thrushcross Grange. She is attracted to Edgar's refinement and wealth, which creates conflict within her. Chapter 5. Catherine accepts Edgar's marriage proposal, devastating Heathcliff. He disappears from Wuthering Heights without any explanation. Catherine marries Edgar, but her heart remains divided between him and Heathcliff. Heathcliff's absence leads Catherine into a state of despair and illness. Chapter 6. Several years later, Lockwood returns to Thrushcross Grange and asks Nelly to continue her narration. Nelly explains that during Lockwood's absence, Catherine gave birth to a daughter, also named Catherine, and passed away shortly after. Edgar raises their daughter, Cathy, while Heathcliff reappears as a wealthy and enigmatic figure. Chapter 7. Heathcliff returns to the area and rents Thrushcross Grange from Edgar. He also acquires ownership of Wuthering Heights, gaining power and control over both properties. Heathcliff's ultimate goal is to seek revenge on those who wronged him, especially Hindley, Edgar, and their descendants. Chapter 8. Cathy grows up under the influence of both her father, Edgar, and her cousin, Hareton Earnshaw, who is now living at Wuthering Heights. She develops a close bond with Hareton, despite his rough upbringing and lack of education. Meanwhile, Heathcliff's presence begins to torment both Cathy and Hareton. Chapter 9. Cathy becomes more curious about her mother's past and her connection with Heathcliff. Nelly shares stories about Catherine and Heathcliff's passionate love and their enduring bond, as well as the destructive consequences of their choices. Cathy starts to sympathize with Heathcliff and wants to reconcile him with her father, Edgar. Chapter 10. Heathcliff's obsession with Catherine intensifies, even after her death. He begins to experience ghostly visitations, convinced that Catherine's spirit haunts him. He becomes desperate for a reunion with her in the afterlife. The specter of their love continues to cast a dark shadow over the lives of those at Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. Chapter 11, Cathy and Hareton's relationship blossoms, and they fall in love. Their love story mirrors that of Catherine, and Heathcliff becomes consumed by bitterness and hatred. He despises the budding romance between Cathy and Hareton, viewing it as a betrayal of his own lost love with Catherine. Heathcliff's cruelty towards both Cathy and Hareton escalates, as he sees them as representations of the happiness he was denied. Chapter 12. As time passes, Heathcliff's health deteriorates, and his obsession with Catherine's ghost consumes him completely. He longs for death to reunite with her, but his desires remain unfulfilled. Meanwhile, Cathy and Hareton's love continues to grow, and they begin to break free from the cycle of revenge and darkness that has plagued their families. Chapter 13. Heathcliff's death marks the end of an era at Wuthering Heights. His passing brings a sense of relief to those who have suffered under his torment. Cathy and Hareton inherit the properties and work together to restore Wuthering Heights to its former glory. They are determined to create a peaceful and loving environment, free from the ghosts of the past. Chapter 14. Nelly concludes her narrative, reflecting on the tragic and tumultuous events that unfolded at Wuthering Heights. She emphasizes the destructive power of unchecked passions, revenge, and societal expectations. The novel ends with Lockwood, who listens to Nelly's story, contemplating the consequences of such a dark and intense tale. Wuthering Heights is a haunting and complex novel that explores themes of love, betrayal, revenge, and the destructive nature of obsession. Through its vivid characters and atmospheric setting, the story delves into the depths of human emotions and the consequences of choices made in the name of love and hatred. Thanks for watching. To read the full version of the book, click on the link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for similar content.